Zionism was created when the Jewish were exiled from Israel, and the biblical term for both Israel and Jerusalem is Zion. Zionism is the yearning to return to Zion. The Zionist movement was founded in the late 19th century by secular Jewish. It was a political movement that supported the self-determination of the Jewish people. The movement was for the Jewish to return home, back to Israel. Today, Zionism continues to guide nationalist movement of the majority of the Jewish people around the world.
The big question is, why did the Jews want a homeland? The Jewish people wanted Palestine, now called Israel, because they were exiled from Israel in 587 BC. This, and persecution by anti-Semitists, began the religious and political movement known as Zionism. During the 19th century, Wilhelm Marr had developed the term anti-Semitism, which denoted hatred of the Jews. In 1894, Theodor Herzl was a witness to the Dreyfus Affair, and discovered that his people needed their own land. The Dreyfus Affair occurred when a Jewish French officer named Alfred Dreyfus was accused of collaborating with the Germans. The actual spy was Marie-Charles Esterhazy, but he was acquitted. As for Alfred Dreyfus, people began to doubt that he was the actual spy, but 80% of the French press still condemned him. This event led Herzl.
It was founded by Theodor Herzl. The first successful meeting was in Basel, Switzerland, in 1897, and that was when the Basel Declaration was created. The document held 4 goals that the Jewish people wanted. Goal number 1, the promotion by the appropriate means of the settlement in Eretz Israel.
Goal number 2, the organization and the writing of the whole of Jewry by means of appropriate institutions, both legal and international, in accordance to the law of each country. Goal number 3, the strengthening and fostering of Jewish national sentiment and national consciousness.
Goal number 4, preparatory step toward obtaining the consent of governments, where necessary, in order to reach the goals of Zionism.
There are a lot of Zionist leaders, but overall the most well-known was Theodor Herzl, because he was the one that started the Zionist movement. He believed that Jews needed to create themselves a state when he saw people marching on the street yelling, "Death to the Jews," during the Dreyfus Affair. Herzl wrote Der Judenstaat to tell the Jewish people that they needed a country to call their own. In the book, he stated that the Jewish question persists wherever Jews live in appreciable numbers. Wherever it does not exist, it is brought in together with Jewish immigrants. We are naturally drawn into those places where we are not persecuted, and our appearance there gives rise to persecution. This is the case and will inevitably be so everywhere, even in highly civilized countries, see, for instance, France, so long as the Jewish question is not solved on the political level. The unfortunate Jews are now carrying the seeds of anti-Semitism into England. They have already introduced it into America.
There are Zionists out there, and if that is the case, then that means that they're anti-Zionist then. The anti-Zionist doesn't support the Zionist movement because they disagree on changing Palestine. Sometimes, there are some Jews who do not wish to support the Zionist movement. The anti-Zionist does not support it because they do not wish for Palestine to disintegrate. On some occasions, the ones that support the Jewish people want to kick them out of the place. An example of that would be France. Palestine was given to them after World War II because the world saw how cruelly they were being persecuted in Germany. Therefore, the land called Palestine was turned into Israel due to what happened in Germany. There were many protests against Jews coming to the Middle East, but the Jews had other plans. When the Jews immigrated to Palestine, the Arabs did not want the Jews to come in. So how did the Jews go into Palestine, or more like, what gave them the power to go into Palestine? It was all thanks to the UN, because they had announced a partition on November 29, 1947. The partition was to turn the British-ruled Palestine Mandate into a Jewish state and Arab state. The Arabs still did not approve of the partition, and this led to future warfare.
Not only that, but some Jews did things that would be called terrorism now, but then were a sign that the Jews wanted Israel. On October 31st, 1946, a female in red murdered 12 people in Jerusalem. The incident occurred at the Jerusalem railway station, where the female, known as the Girl in Red, held the railway clerk at gunpoint and planted 3 suitcases around the station. One of the suitcases was found, but the other 2 blew up. Before the suitcases blew up, the police caught the culprits, including the Girl in Red.
Ergen Zavali, a spokesman for Zionist terrorists, broadcasted over the secret radio Voice of Fighting Zion, saying, "The Jews are at war. Only arms will decide Palestine's future, not an election." There were wars that had to be fought as well, and in these wars there were 7 distinctive phases. Phase 1. The late 19th century was the era of Ottoman rule in Palestine. The Jews saw themselves as part of the overall Arab territories. Disputes were based on religious background, not national background.
Phase number 2, 1917 to 1948. The period of the British Mandate of Palestine, in which both parties, the Jewish and the Palestinians, were under the British control. During this period, Jewish people immigrated to Palestine, and this began the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Phase 3, 1967, Six-Day War. Border clashes between Syria and Israel. First day, combined air attacks on all fronts by Israel in early morning, destroying 2/3 of Arab aircrafts. Second day, paratroops moved from Ammunition Hill to St. Scopus in Jerusalem.
Third day, Old City captured, the West Bank is subdued. The Israel military government is established. Fourth day, Israel reaches the Suez Canal.
Fifth day, the battle continues, mostly up in the north. Sixth day, ceasefire proclaimed. Israel controls Golan Heights and demilitarized Jerusalem area.
Phase 4, 1967 through 1993. The period between the Six-Day War and the Oslo Accords, in which the conflict resides concerning the areas that were under the control of the State of Israel, addressed by the UN partition.
Phase number 5, 1993 to 2000. The period between the Oslo Accords and the Second Intifada, in which Israel existed alongside the semi-sovereign political autonomy, the Palestinian Authority.
Phase 6, 2000 to 2005. The period between the beginning of the Second Intifada up to 2005, when Israel returned to platform erecting operations in Area A zones on the West Bank.
Phase 7, 2005 through the present. The period after Israel's unilateral withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. This withdrawal led to the strengthening of Hamas, which won an election in 2006, then took over the Gaza Strip.
There are meetings held in Jerusalem every 4 to 5 years because that was their permanent meeting place. The organization is both a political and religious group. They are religious because they follow Zionism, and they are political because they have to have a representation from at least 5 countries to send a delegate to Congress.
Although this movement was solely for the Jews, it also could be considered racism because the Jewish people believe that they are called the chosen ones. There are groups outside of Judaism that support the Zionist movement. These outsiders include certain members and sectors of Christians, Muslims, and Hindus.